American patriotism has faced a steep decline amongst young adults over the last decade and now sits, apparently, at a record low. Pride in national identity is the lowest amongst those 18 to 34 years old and illustrates the fracture between young Americans and older generations at a time of deep partisanship in the United States. In the most recent Gallup poll, Americans 55 and older were nearly 3 times more likely to be extremely prideful of their nationality than the younger generations. Overall, 39% of U.S. adults say they are extremely proud to be American in the most recent poll. Meanwhile, only 18% of those in the 18 to 34-year-old age bracket, we'll call that the Dorenzo Valdez bracket, only 18% have said the same, compared to 40% of those aged 35 to 54, which is where Greg and I reside in, and 50% of those 55 and over. By comparison, just 10 years ago, in 2013, 85% of those people aged 18 to 29 said they were extremely or very proud to be an American. So just a decade ago, go back to 2013, think about where you were in your life, professionally, personally, age-wise, whatever. 85% of the youths or the young adults, 18 to 29, loved this country. That is 10 years later, that's gone from 85% to 18%. And here's my theory on this, and I want to get your guys' thoughts to see if I'm right or wrong or what your own theory might be. I think now more than ever, media, social media, and the Democrats, with fear, division, and hatred, have influenced and manipulated the youths at a very early age. And I would say the Democrats are third in that order. I really do believe you go on social media, and how many times do we play a TikTok video of somebody who just hates their existence, hates this country, is sitting there on their bed with their hair dyed 4 different colors saying how awful of a nation we are, and there's transphobic people everywhere, there's homophobic people everywhere, there's racist people everywhere. Every time you turn the block on the street and go around the corner, there's just hatred just spewing out of the sewers in cities. And then, of course, in the media, where the mainstream has alternate media outnumbered probably 8 to 1, all they ever do is talk about negative things in this country and hatred and all these awful things that certainly exist, but not at the level that the media likes to portray that they do. So I think this is fascinating because this is not like, hey, back in 1985, 85% of young people loved this country. This was just 10 years ago. This was the beginning of the second Obama term. A lot has changed, but in reality, has a lot changed? I think you could debate that. Any thoughts on this? Because to me, it feels like it is really a social media creation, which concerns me because young kids are always on TikTok and Snapchat and Instagram, and they're always just sharing these opinions that, to be honest, nobody was asking for. And that's your right. You share your opinions, but it seems to me like this is the social media era of making America seem like it's a very awful place to live. Which, in my opinion, look, like I've said, and this goes to these 18 to 29-year-olds. In theory, when you're 18, you leave your parents' house. I know it's offensive to say parents because not everybody has a mom and dad these days and people get in their feelings. But like when you're 18, you're an adult, you hate it here. I don't know. Go move to Canada. Go drink a Molson and breathe in the wildfires. Go over to Europe. If you think it's better in Central America, go elsewhere. If you don't like this country, flat out leave. I'll never forget when I was working in sports radio about 12 years ago. One of the guys I was working with was just in a foul mood and hated his job. And my boss at the time literally came out of his office, the brand manager. We called them program directors back in the day. And he says, if you don't like it, leave. There's the door. Like this notion that we hate things but we don't leave or quit is fascinating to me because nobody's forcing you to work the job you have or live in the country that you live in. If you have free reign, go. You can find it better elsewhere, leave. You guys have any thoughts on this from the standpoint of the youths?
I think part of it is social media and the self-centered nature of, and they're talking about ages 18 to 34. But on the other hand, they haven't, I think, as well. They haven't traveled as much in COVID.
Mm-hmm.
I think part of it is what's going on with America, social media, and the negative energy that social media creates.
Uh-huh.
But at the same time, for most people 18 to 34, I don't know that they've traveled in the world or traveled the country like people did, and especially COVID shut that down as well.
Mm-hmm.
But I think when you have a chance to live and to travel the world, travel the country, you realize that this great country and the world is a very large place, and that we as Americans, we have it pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think the more closed in, you think of the selfie is a symbol of, and looking at like a parakeet, looking in that mirror all the time in a cage.
Pretty bird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just being in a cage, looking at a mirror and pecking at the mirror.
Yeah.
And that's what a lot of teenagers are doing. And then you supersize that with the pandemic closures, depending on where you were. And so I think if you're not happy and you're always looking inward, then how can you look out into the world and even feel blessed about anything?
Yeah. Well
Are they positive about anything?
Well, what's weird about this, too, is you have so many of these young people that weren't really, at least they say, they weren't bothered by the pandemic, and they had no problem staying at home and binge watching Netflix and swiping and scrolling on their smart device with their social media app of choice. Yet I think over the last 3.5 years, if there is one group of people that have a legit gripe with this country, it's those that have been censored, those that have been labeled deplorables, those that all of a sudden, just because they voted for Donald Trump, get treated like they joined ISIS or something. Like, I think that's a legit gripe. Like, United States of America, you don't get mad at me because of who I vote for. Yet it's the left that is, in theory, and I think actually in practice, has never had it better. Who's that? Right now, like, all the marginalized communities from years and years and years ago, which certainly was wrong, they've got it better than ever these days. People get hired based on their identity, not on their merit. And you're complaining about that now in this country?
We're also teaching a generation of kids that America's evil, it's racist, it's sexist, it's homophobic, it's this, that, and the other. And people look at that, there's really been nothing, our lifetime, obviously, it was 9/11. And so there's really been nothing in our life in recent times that kind of brought everybody together as kind of a patriotic moment.
Right.
You think of after 9/11, the country came together.
It was awesome.
There was nothing, we're not at war. Well, at least we're not,
No, we're just paying for one.
Well, you know what I mean.
Yeah,
like
I got you.
it's not there's no big conflict that is bringing everybody together, and then you silo people off into their own things, and like, hey, you can work from home and do this from home, and all you have is your social media thing, and
It's a great point.
You're just reading how America is terrible, or you're self-obsessed with getting likes and stuff. It's no wonder people think that this is not a great country.
It actually is a great point you make, and the two major global events, or even in this country, an American event. To your point, you look at 9/11, we get attacked, everybody comes together. I'll never forget that fall, that football season, that baseball season, G.W. Bush throwing out the first pitch, the Yankees Diamondbacks World Series. It didn't matter if you were white or black, Republican or Democrat. Everybody was galvanized and rallied behind the flag, this country, and everything that's great about the United States of America. And then you look at what COVID did, and it just went completely, everybody went into their own little corner, legitimately, like in your own corner of your house, because you were told you shouldn't leave, and it created a massive division.
Yep.
Everybody rallied behind 9/11, and then 2020, everybody just totally basically all, and there's polls out there. There are studies that said, what was race relations like pre-COVID? And it was like 72% of Americans thought race relations were pretty good. Now you see that same poll, and I gave you this a couple of months ago on the show, that number's down to like 47%.
You have it really good in life when the biggest thing you have to worry about is what gender you are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like when
First world problems.
Exactly. When that's the biggest issue. It's I heard somebody say one time that after when the when the Greek Empire fell or something, like right before it fell, all they were worried about were these trivial things, and then all of a sudden this big catastrophic thing happened. So like, you worry about that from a historic standpoint, like is all of this nonsense that we worry about every day, that kids are worried about these days, is this a precursor to something bigger happening? I don't know.
We'll see.